Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Chinedu. How are you?
Good. And you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much. I can still see some people coming in and out. I think one or two people might be having technical difficulties, but due to the time constraints, we'll just carry on because we've got an hour and there are quite a few topics to cover within that 1 hour. So I will crack on. So thank you very much for joining. I will share my screen because I have a presentation.
Okay. Nice picture.
Thanks, Junidi. Can everyone see my screen?
I can.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So thank you very much for attending. Today is the first of our new initiative, which is masterclasses or having focused sessions where we delve into specific topics and understand the details of that topic. So there are lots of terminologies that are being thrown around. So as a way to support our students, we will be having these masterclasses. And today will be the first of these masterclasses, and today we'll be focusing on demystifying JIRA. I'll talk about that a bit more. But firstly, about us. So we are an organization that is focused on equipping and educating aspiring IT professionals. So our core aim is to make sure that people have the right knowledge, skills, and expertise to get into the IT career path or IT role of their choice. So be it business analysis, project management, or agile, or whatever it is within IT space, we are poised to equip people with the knowledge, tools, expertise, and more importantly, with the experience required to get into those areas. So essentially, our goal is to become your career partner of choice. Now, a bit about me. My name is Stephen Adindu, and I have been a BA for over 8 years, and I have quite a few business analysis certification and a few project management certification. My background is in engineering, but I have delved into the world of business analysis and project management. So, whatever your career path or your current career is at the moment, that does not necessarily mean that you can transition into BA. So BA or PM or IT in general, to be honest, is not, it has nothing to do with what you studied. All it requires is a set of skills and expertise. I have quite a few experiences, with my focus being the utility sector. So I've worked for organizations like National Grid, E.ON, npower, and Co. And here in Canada, I am still working for a utility company. Okay, so the objective of today's session is simple and straightforward. And the idea is to build the knowledge and expertise in the practical use of JIRA. And we'll talk about what JIRA is for those that are new on the call. We'll go through a full intro as to what JIRA is and what it can be used for and how it applies to us as business analysts, project managers, test analysts, or whatever our role is. So our role is to build the knowledge and expertise in the practical use of JIRA. So the ground rules, there are there are just two. So the first one is to ensure that we all focus on the conversation, and we're not distracted. I would kindly request that everybody puts their microphone on mute and only unmute it when you want to speak or ask a question. And that leads me nicely to the questions. Now, the way we will be asking questions during today's masterclass will be through raising your hand, because there is a raise hand function on the Zoom application that we are using. The other option is you can post your question in the chat window as well. So it will be addressed when we get to the Q&A session, or the time for Q&A. And then finally, you can also wait till the Q&A session at the end, because we will have a dedicated Q&A session where we would answer any questions and address any or clarify our doubts, questions, challenges, whatever that may be. Okay, so we'll dive straight in then. So what is JIRA? Now, we may have all heard about JIRA maybe as part of our roles or as part of our interaction with people, or maybe we've just seen it in a job description. So knowledge of JIRA is required. So JIRA is an incident management tool that has now evolved into, it can be used for literally anything and everything now. But originally, it was an incident management tool that was used primarily for test management, so test and defect management. But now it is being used for requirements management, it is being used for project planning, it is being used for portfolio planning, it is being used for reporting, etc. So it can be used in different ways. Now, it's an application that was originally developed by Atlassian, which is an Australian company. It is an independent tool and can be used with any operating system. It comes in many languages. It supports different databases, so MySQL, Oracle, etc. And it can be integrated with many other tools. So it is a very flexible and adaptable tool that can be used for any purpose and that can be integrated with pretty much everything and anything out there today. Okay, so what can JIRA be used for? What is it used for? Now, like I said before, originally it was meant to be used purely for testing. So to carry out test cases, to track defects with regards to those tests, and to provide overall test reporting. However, as the tool evolved, it has been extended to cover other areas. So today, JIRA is used for requirements management. It is still used for testing. It is used for project management. And one thing that JIRA has done that has made it even more useful is it has allowed the integration of multiple plugins for different specific purposes. So you can find a plugin that is specifically for project management. You can find another plugin that is specific for test management. You can find a plugin that relates to pretty much anything you want to do. You can have like a viewer plugin that pictorially represents the issues within JIRA. And I know I'm using some new terminologies. We will explain some of these terminologies as we progress. So as the slide says, JIRA can be used for bugs, issue, change request tracking. It can be used in help desk, support customer services to manage and track tickets and monitor them through to resolution. It can be used in project management, task tracking, requirements management. And also it's very useful in workflow and process management. So it is a very useful tool, especially today, where most organizations are going agile, and what they need is a move away from spreadsheets and access databases into something more flexible tool. And that's where JIRA comes in. And one of the things I would say at this point is currently out of every 10 jobs out there, 10 BA or project management jobs, at least to be conservative, about 6 to 7 of them require knowledge of JIRA. So this is becoming a household name in the world of software applications. Okay, so JIRA has some core features, and they include a board, which is a Scrum board, and also an Agile board, or Kanban board rather. And within JIRA, there are multiple business project templates, and the idea is to make it easy for you to create any type of project you want. So JIRA contains task details. You can use JIRA for notifications. You can search. There's a search functionality within JIRA. You can produce different reports with JIRA. Now, one of the core benefits of JIRA is the ability to scale. So whether you have 2 people within your team or you have 10 people or 100 people in your team, you can actually scale JIRA to meet the number or the team growth. JIRA has lots of add-ins or plugins, like I said earlier, so you can actually link JIRA with pretty much anything. So some people on the call may know of a plugin called Confluence and another one called Zephyr. So these are the commonly used plugins. So Confluence is like a repository, and Zephyr is specifically used for test management. There's another one called Portfolio for JIRA, and there are hundreds of plugins out there that can be integrated to JIRA for specific purposes. And then finally, JIRA also has a mobile app, so you don't have to be in the office to monitor your issues or to monitor the bugs that you've created or you're interested in. You can actually monitor them on your mobile phone on the go as well. Okay, so that would lead us into part 1 of JIRA. So the way I've structured this masterclass is the first part will be where we talk about the core or the JIRA concepts. So these are terminologies that are used in JIRA, or the key terminologies that as long as you keep using JIRA, you would keep hearing these terminologies. So rather than jumping straight into the demo, I thought we would first of all understand what these concepts are. And then after that, we'll go into a live demo where we would carry out different functions on JIRA. So live on JIRA as opposed to screenshots and talking through screenshots. Okay, so there are 6 core concepts within JIRA. So you've got a project, you've got an issue, you've got a workflow, you've got reports, you've got roles and permissions, you've got notifications. Now, there are maybe 1 or 2 extra, but these are the core concepts that we need to focus on, or that would help us a lot. Okay, so we'll start with project then. So within JIRA, the concept of project simply means a collection of issues. So I know we'll get to issues later on, but issues at a high level is stories, bugs, tasks, epics. So everything that represents a work or something that needs to be done within JIRA is called an issue. And all the issues related to a particular area or a particular topic will fall under a project umbrella. So for example, a software development project, you could have a marketing project, you could have a data migration project, a help desk tracking project, employee timesheet management project, etc. Now, within each of these projects, you would have a number of issues. Now, those issues could be in the form of stories, it could be in the form of bugs, it could be in the form of test cases, it could be in the form of tasks, etc. But a project is a collection of issues. Now, JIRA has different project types or project templates. So there are 6 main project templates within JIRA. So there's the basic software development template, which is just a basic IT project. And then there is a Scrum software development project, which is specific to Agile Scrum methodology. Now, there is also a Kanban software development, which is specific again to Agile Kanban development methodology. So Scrum and Kanban are both Agile delivery methods. I'll say that again. Scrum and Kanban are both Agile delivery methods. And these are the top 2 most common Agile delivery methods. Now, the basic software development could be a basic waterfall project. However, the Scrum and Kanban are more Agile focused. And by Agile, what that means is that you would have default Agile terminologies being used for those kind of templates. For example, within the Scrum template, you would have an epic. You don't need to create a new epic. You have an epic field. You would also have Agile boards available, etc. Now, you also have a project management template, a process management template, and a task management template. So these are core templates. So these are the 6 basic templates available within JIRA. Okay. Now, that leads us to an issue. What is an issue? Now, an issue is used to track tasks. So it's simply a way of noting down within JIRA that something has to be done. Now, it could be a technical task. It could be a non-technical task. It could be a support task. It could even be something as simple as I need to request for access to a particular platform, or I need to procure licenses for a particular tool. Everything that needs to happen, everything that needs to be done within JIRA is captured as a task. Now, I'm sure some people may wonder, why is it called an issue? Why is it not called a task? Or why is it not called a requirement? Or why is it not called a subtask or a bug or whatever? The reason is simply because when JIRA was initiated, when JIRA was founded, it was founded as a defect management tool. So it always refers to issues. So when you create a test case and you execute the test case, an issue results from that which needs to be fixed. So that was the origin of the term issue, and they have stuck to that term over time. So that's why, be it a requirement, an epic, a task, it's all referred to as issue. Now, in JIRA, there are different issue types. So you can have a story issue, which is also the same as a requirement. You can also have a task of a story, a subtask of a story. These are sub-components of the story. And then you can have a defect or a bug. So a defect is when you execute a test case and it fails, you need to create a defect to capture the details of the failure. And then also a help desk ticket can be logged as an issue as well. Okay. So there are several issue types, or several types of issue to identify what can categorize the similar issues. So these issues can be categorized into epics, stories, tasks, subtasks, bugs, improvements, new feature. So I'll go back one step. So epics, these are large user stories. So where you have a large user story, it is called an epic. Now, an epic ideally should be broken down into multiple stories, which is why we have that split. So epics lead to stories, stories lead to tasks, tasks lead to subtasks. And then you have the bugs, which are defects, like I said. And then you have improvements and completely new features. So these are the different categories or categorizations for issues. So every issue can be categorized into one of the following rather. Okay. So the next area we'll look at is workflow and transitions. So we've talked about projects, and within projects we have issues. Now, every issue would have a life cycle. So issues progress from one stage to another stage through to a point where it's either resolved or done or complete. So for example, an issue could start off as an open issue, which means that it has just been created and needs to be assigned to somebody. Now, once it's assigned, it will then move from open to in progress, which means someone is actually working on this issue at the moment. Now, from in progress, once the person finishes the work on that particular issue, the status changes to resolved. So workflow is that it's kind of used to track the life cycle. So it's like it defines the sequence of steps or statuses that an issue will go through. And then a transition is closely related to a workflow. So a transition is the link between two statuses. So a workflow provides that picture of it goes from status A to status B to status C. A transition defines what needs to happen for that issue to go from status A to status B. So I'll say that again. So a workflow is a sequence of steps. So step 1, step 2, step 3, through to the point where that issue is resolved or done or complete. However, the transition is what needs to happen for that particular issue to go from step 1 to step 2. So it's the link between two statuses. And we'll see that when we go through the live demo. So workflows and transitions are really key when it comes to using JIRA, because depending on the project you're working on and the type of project, you would need to define the workflows and the transitions to ensure that people adhere to a particular way or a particular sequence of steps. So the last thing you want is for someone to move a story straight from maybe open to resolved without it going through in progress. So when you have the workflow, it forces people to do the right thing. It enforces a level of governance within the project. Okay. Within JIRA, you have the ability to produce multiple reports. So JIRA has provided a functionality to generate different reports depending on what you want to report on. For example, you can produce an epic report, you can produce a burn down chart, you can produce a sprint report, you can produce a release burn down. Now, each of these reports will give you specific information regarding your project. So for example, the epic report will give you specific information regarding your epic and all the user stories contained within that epic. So it can actually give you a snapshot of how many user stories within that epic is in what status. For example, you can see, let's just take a very basic example. If you have 10 user stories in an epic, the epic report will be able to show you the status of each of the user stories. So you can see that 3 are in a done state, 4 are in an in progress state, and then you have the other 3 that are still open or yet to be assigned. So JIRA does a very good job of providing people with or users with multiple reports. Okay, and then roles and permissions. Now, because JIRA is a collaborative tool that allows multiple people to have access to the tool and multiple people to do different things within the tool, within the same project at the same time. JIRA has a concept of roles and permissions where different individuals or different users on that project will have different levels of access and different levels of permissions within that project. So for example, you could have a project lead who would have the ability to add new people to the project, or you could have a default assignee. That means whatever task is assigned or whatever task is created, it goes to that person by default. And then you can also have specific project roles. For example, you could have a project administrator, you could have a business user within the project who, again, will have a level of access. So for example, you could have a project administrator with, the ability to create issues, delete issues, edit issues, etc. But you can also decide that there are some people that need to have visibility to those issues, but they don't necessarily need to have the ability to edit those issues. So for example, it could be a business stakeholder that just needs to read the issues within the project. What you would give them is a business user access, which allows them to just read the issue or the issues within the project. So there are different roles within JIRA. The other functionality available within JIRA is security levels. So you can actually limit people's access by allowing them to access a particular part of a project. So for example, if you have issues that are sensitive and you don't want everybody with it, people that are not part of the project to access those issues, you can actually limit the permissions of those specific individuals. A typical example is where you're working on a project and you have some external parties or a third-party organization that you guys are working with. Now, you may want them to have visibility to some issues that do not contain sensitive data, but there may be other issues that you don't want them to have access to. So you can use the security level feature to limit their access. Okay, and then we've got the notification function. So this is where you can notify someone within the organization of an issue. So if you know of a person, an individual, or a user that may be interested in a particular issue or that needs to take an action on a particular issue, you can notify them. And there are different ways to notify them. This will ensure that they have visibility of that issue and the status, and they monitor the issue. Or for example, if they have been assigned an action, maybe they need to do something on that particular issue, you can notify them by including them on that particular issue, and they would receive an email notification and take the appropriate action. So again, JIRA provides a lot of flexibility, a lot of functionalities that allow users or projects or organizations to just manage their projects effectively and collaborate with other members of the team. Okay, so that is a bit of a whistle-stop overview of the core concepts. The next part is the live demo, where we dive straight into JIRA and carry out some key functions. However, before I dive in, I would like to probably just take 5 minutes to answer one or two questions. If anybody has one, okay.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah, fire away.
Sorry, was I supposed to put my hand up first? Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So all you need to do is just tell us your name and then you can ask your question.
Sure. So my name's Yomi, and my question is, you mentioned some things about assigning roles and security and all that stuff. Who actually decides on who gets these roles, and who's kind of the main person that decides all of this stuff?
Okay, so that's a good question, Yomi, and I like the way you're thinking because you're not just thinking theory, you're thinking practical, which is very good. So remember, this tool will be used on a project, and as part of that project, a lot of conversations will be had around initiating the project. Now, part of those conversations will include, or those conversations will include, who are our stakeholders? And I'll use a typical example. So where you have third parties that are working on the same project, but you don't necessarily want them to have access to certain, for example, financial or finance related requirements, that will be decided at a project level. And then the JIRA administrator will be issued a request to restrict their access. So there will be a JIRA administrator. Then depending on the organization, there may be also a project administrator. So the JIRA administrator will be responsible for creating the project, and the project administrator will be able to grant people different levels of access depending on what their role is. So that decision will be made outside by a project manager, or the project lead, whoever is responsible for the project, who will make that decision outside, and then that decision will be communicated to the JIRA or project administrator, who would implement it within JIRA. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. That makes sense.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, cool. So we'll dive straight in then.
Hello, Steve.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, sorry, I had written in the chat box, but maybe you haven't checked. Okay, so this is Debola. I just wanted to put a teaser out there, actually. So assuming I'm at an interview,
yeah,
and I sing along with regards to all the benefits of JIRA, blah, 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 and then I'm asked the question, in your experience or in your opinion, to aid our decision making, we're not using JIRA yet. We're looking to use JIRA. We're thinking very seriously about it. But just so we make an informed decision, in your opinion, what might you consider cons of JIRA to be? What would your answer be?
Pretty much everything I've said for the past 20 minutes.
No, the cons, not the pros, the cons.
Oh, the disadvantages of using JIRA, right?
Yes.
Oh,
so obviously the answer is nothing, then it's nothing. But I'm just wondering what in industry people may have put out there as possible disadvantages of JIRA.
Okay. Oh no, yeah. So apologies, I got the question wrong. So that's a good question. Now, JIRA is good. It's flexible. However, there are still gaps within JIRA. So I'll give you a typical example. Now, if interestingly, I was having this conversation with at work with the JIRA administrator. So I'm working on a project at the moment, and I'm responsible for setting up JIRA for the project. Now, as part of our customization request, we need JIRA we need to be able to attach documents within JIRA. but not necessarily at an issue level, at a project level. So JIRA allows you to attach documents at an issue level, but then at a project level, the functionality does not exist. Now, that is a big gap for me. The other thing is JIRA is structured in such a way that you have the core JIRA product, but then every additional functionality is an additional plugin and requires additional cost. So on its own, it's not complete. By the time you start adding different functionalities, so for example, you want to attach documents at a project level, you need a plugin for that. You want a test tool, you need a plugin for that. You want a collaboration tool, you need a plugin for that. You notice that it becomes a bit, it just becomes unnecessarily clunky per se, as opposed to having an all-in-one solution where you have a platform that does everything you want it to do. So whilst it's got a lot of benefits in terms of flexibility, adaptability, easy to use, intuitive, etc., it's got a few challenges as well that could be improved on. Now, it doesn't mean those challenges cannot be overcome. It doesn't mean those challenges are a showstopper. It just means that it could be improved. There's a lot of room for improvement. And that's just one example.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so I think I'm just picking up the, okay, so I'll switch to the live app or the live JIRA application, where we would go through the following. So we would do a bit of a layout walkthrough, and then we'll create a project within JIRA. We'll create an issue within JIRA. We'll view or create a workflow within JIRA. We'll clone an issue, create a subtask, edit an issue, email an issue, label an issue, link issues, move an issue, export issues, etc. So we'll do all this within JIRA now. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and then switch to the JIRA Live application. There we go. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome to JIRA. Now I'm sure some people may have seen this before, and others may not have seen it before. But this is what JIRA looks like. So this is the landing page or the home page or the dashboard. So when you log into JIRA, this is typically what you would see. Now you have the home button at the top left, which is the JIRA software home button. Can you guys see my mouse? Can you guys see my mouse moving?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, cool. And then you have to the right hand side, you have assigned to me. So these are all so this is where you will see all the issues assigned to you. So for example, if you are a developer and you need to do some work, you would see a list of all the issues assigned to you here. Now, what this gives you is that initial snapshot, and you can pick the issue, the most important issue, and work on it, and then come back to the dashboard and pick it up. So you know straight away from this view what issues have been assigned to you. Now, if you scroll down, you would also see an activity stream. Now, what this is a list of the latest activities on the platform. So if someone has gone in to update something, you see it on here. If a new bug has been created, you see it on here. If an issue has been closed, you see it on here, and you can always show more and view more information. So this is like a quick update on what has been going on. To the left-hand side, under the home page, you have star. So this is where you can view starred stories, and also you can view recent issues as well. So it's kind of like a quick way to find out what's going on. You can use the search. So the next one is the search icon, which you can use to search for issues or epics or whatever you're looking for. And then the plus sign is used to create a new issue. So you click on the plus sign, it gives you a new issue page where you can start creating an issue. Now you can select the project you want to create an issue for, and then go ahead and create an issue. We'll come on to that later on. And then further down here, you have your notifications. So where you have been notified or someone has included your name in a particular issue, you would see that notification in here. Where you have opted to watch an issue, you would see the issue here. So as you can see, there is one issue that is being watched on here. And then this icon allows you to switch between JIRA applications. So if you click on it, you can actually switch to Confluence, for example, or any other JIRA application you have, and you can switch to other projects. This is a typical help icon. And then you have a settings icon. So this is where you make changes to the global settings within JIRA. And then you have your user profile and user profile settings. Okay, top right, you have dashboard. So this is your default view of the dashboard. You can also customize this dashboard if you want to view it in a slightly different way. And of course, you can minimize that. Okay, so we'll carry out the first task, which is to create a project. Before we do that, as you can see, we have dashboards. Underneath dashboards, we have projects. So this is where you view all the projects available to you or that you are allowed to view. And then issues, same way you view all the issues. Tests. Now this only appears when you have the Zephyr or Zephyr plugin for JIRA, which is a test and defect management tool. Now, if that plugin is not available, you won't see this. So this is specifically for that plugin. And then finally, you have your JIRA settings. Okay. So first task, let's create a project. So to create a project, you click on the projects. So it will show you a list of all the projects available. And then at the top right hand corner, you would see a create project icon. Now, not everybody may have access to create a project. Because for example, where I work at the moment, I don't have the access to create a project, but I have the access to make changes to a created project. So just in case you do have access, this is how to create a project. So you click on the classic project, and then you type in a name. So let's just call this project JIRA Masterclass project. And then you click on create. There you go. So we've got a new project created, JIRA Masterclass project. and you can start building the project however you want. So for example, let's create an issue for our JIRA Masterclass project. So we've got at the top here, JIRA Masterclass project, or JMP. And then we've got the issue type as a story. So we can also decide to create an epic, or we can decide to create a task, or we can decide to create a bug. So depending on what we want to create, it's the same process. And if you remember, JIRA has that standard issues concept. So whatever you're creating, it's still an issue and it's still the same process. So in this case, we're creating a story. We'll just call it test story. And then we'll copy that into the description as test story. So those are the mandatory fields within the create a story function. So all the other fields rather are not mandatory. So at the moment, as it stands, we can actually create this issue. So we have a new issue created. There we go. Now we can, if we want to, we can actually create a subtask for this issue. Now remember we talked about subtasks. So these are activities that are related to an issue. So work that needs to happen as part of an issue. So to create a subtask, you just click on this icon and it would show whatever work needs to be done. So I'll just call this subtask 1. And then we'll create that. Again, if we need to create an additional subtask, we can call that subtask 2 and click on create. So that's simply how to create issues and how to create subtasks. Now, the other thing I was going to talk about, and we'll come back to issues because we need to talk about editing issues, linking issues, etc. But the other thing I had on the list was to talk about workflows. So we talked about workflows during the explanation of the core concepts. Then I'll show you how to create workflows. So you go into project settings. Actually, we'll go back a step just so we can see the full path to creating or to viewing workflows. So we'll go back right to the home page, into projects, and then go into the JIRA Masterclass project or any of the other projects. And then we can see our stories. So we've got test story JMP1, subtask 1 JMP2, subtask 2 JMP3. So we haven't added any description. We can very easily go in to add a description. And save. So it's really easy to use. And this is one of the advantages of JIRA. It's ease of use. In the same way, we can capture additional information for the other subtasks and also for the test story. Okay, just going back to the workflow. You go into project settings. And then here you can actually make any change you want. So be it to people, you can add people, you can remove people. So to add someone else, you just need to click on add people. and then you can add anybody you want to add, and you choose the role you want to assign to them. Again, you can delete the project if you want, but we are going to look at workflows. Now, so JIRA has default workflow, which is a very simple, straightforward workflow. Now, it's called Software Simplified Workflow for Projects. So that has been applied to our JMP project. And we can view the diagram or pictorial representation of that workflow. So can everyone see the diagram? Is it clear enough? Or do I need to make it bigger? Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So remember we talked about workflow and we talked about transitions. Now we have different states. So the states in this case are backlog, selected for development, in progress, and done. So backlog simply means we've created the story, it's in the backlog. In this case, it has been selected for development, it's in progress, and then it's done. Now you can see the transition, which is create. So what needs to happen before a story can go onto the backlog is it has to be created. Now for this simple workflow, which is a default JIRA workflow, it just says it goes straight from all. So any user story can go straight to backlog. Any user story can go straight to selected for development. Any user story can go straight to in progress, and any can go straight to done. Now, this is not practical in the workplace because you need transitions. So what needs to happen before a user story can go from the backlog to selected for development, or from selected for development to in progress, or from in progress to done? So what are the transitions? They need to be captured. Now, this particular workflow does not necessarily capture any of that. I will show you one that does capture that. So we won't spend too much time on this. So this is the basic workflow structure. So just going back a step, this workflow structure applies to these issue types. So every story, bug, epic, task, and subtask will need to go through that workflow right from the start through to the end. Now, the good thing about JIRA again is it can be edited. So you can actually make changes. If you don't want the epic to be in this group, you can take it out. If you don't want the stories to be in this group, you can take it out. Okay. So this is a bit tiny, but I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you guys see the JIRA workflow?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is another example, and this one is more complete because it contains transitions. So you have an issue going from open. So after it's created, it goes to open. Now the transition between open and resolved is resolve issue. So what needs to happen before the status of the issue is changed to resolve is that someone needs to resolve the issue. So that's why we have the transition in here. And again, you have other transitions. So for example, it could go from resolved to reopened, or from closed to reopened. So these are JIRA workflow examples. And yeah, so these are JIRA workflow examples which we can very easily choose from and apply to that project. So this is the one I wanted to show. So this one I created for a particular project that we worked on. It's a bit more complex, but I don't know if you guys can see it. Actually, what I'll do is I'll apply it to this project. So it becomes, yes, let's publish it. Ooh. Okay, so I have to go back. I hope I have not broken something. Okay, so I just wanted to show that workflow example. Okay, so go back, project settings, workflows. Anyway, I'll just discard this because it doesn't seem to be responding. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show was how to clone an issue. So to clone an issue, by the way, to clone an issue simply means to replicate the same issue. So there are instances where you may have to replicate a particular issue. For example, if you want to create that same issue on another project, you can use the clone function. Or if you have an issue that contains sensitive information, you may want to create a version of that issue that is only viewable by external stakeholders or third-party organizations, whilst the original version, which contains the sensitive data, is only visible to the internal team members. So that's another main reason why you might want to clone an issue. I will just pick an example. So to clone an issue, you click on the three dots to the right. And the good thing is these dots kind of provide you with more options. So you can move an issue, which we'll talk about later on. You can actually delete an issue if you want to, and you can do a few other things. So to clone an issue, you click on the clone. And then, so if you want to clone the sprint value, oh, I don't have the access to clone. But you may also want to clone the sprint value. And this applies especially to agile projects where you already have an estimate for the issue. So you might want to clone everything, including the estimates. For some reason, I don't have access to clone. Okay, so it actually worked. So it has been cloned. And the thing about clone, one unique feature of clones is the description always comes up with a clone. Now this can be very easily deleted if you want to, but it's always there. So there you go. That's how to clone an issue. The other function that I wanted us to look at is editing an issue. Now JIRA has made it easy to edit an issue, because all you need to do is to click on whatever it is you want to edit. It allows you to go in. So for example, if you want to edit the heading, you can make any changes you want. Delete, undo, take out anything you want, and then you just click on the tick. So there's a tick underneath the description. Whenever you complete your changes, you click on the tick and it's done. So it's saved automatically. And also you can make changes to the labels if you want to. You can make changes to the epic if you want to. You can link it to a different epic. So you don't necessarily need to go too far to make changes. Just click on the specific field you want to change and then capture the change you want to make. So you can include the time if you want to, etc. You can change the priority from medium to highest. It's literally as simple as that to make changes to an issue. The other thing to talk about is label an issue. So one of the commonly used features within JIRA is label. And the reason is sometimes you may want to label a set of issues just so you can filter on those on that label and identify all the issues related to that topic. A typical example is, let's say you're carrying out user acceptance testing, or even let's say another example is you have a set of requirements that are related to reporting and you want to label them as report related requirements. All you need to do is to go down to the label section. Now JIRA allows capture whatever information they want to put in here as a free text. So you can type in reporting. So you've got that new label, you select it, and that particular issue is labeled as a reporting user story. And that's pretty much all you need to do. So you tick it. If you also want to capture another label, let's say it's related to another part of the solution. Let's say it's also a performance related requirement. You can include performance as well and tick it. So you have this particular issue related to performance and reporting. Now, what the good thing about JIRA is those labels are saved. So when you go to another issue, so we're in SSP 14. Let's say we go to another issue. Let's take the clone as an example, SSP 24. We can very easily type reporting and it comes up automatically because it's already created somewhere. And then if we type performance, it comes up. So it picks it up and we don't have to type it all out all the time. Now, when you click on this, so I just clicked on performance, it will bring up all the user stories related to performance. So these are all the performance related user stories. And I think this will be a good opportunity to explain the export function. So now that I've filtered out these performance related user stories, I can then very easily either share it with members of the team or I can actually export it into Excel. So you can export it in any of these formats as Word, Excel, etc. But this is just a simple example of how you can filter and export specific issues. Again, you can view all filters. So these are different parts of the system. But for example, if I click on filter for auction engine delivery team, it pulls up all the user stories related to the auction engine delivery team. And then I can export them to Excel or I can share them with someone. Okay. Any questions so far? And also, I'm a bit conscious that we've gone past the 8 o'clock time, but we started a bit late. So, you know, if everyone is okay to carry on, I'm happy to carry on for a few more minutes. Are we okay to continue?
Yes, please.
I am okay.
Okay. Fab. So yeah, so this is the filter function, and this becomes more important where, let's say you want to filter out requirements and hand it over to a different team or a third party, or even generate certain reports. This becomes very, very useful. And that's another advantage of JIRA, because it provides you the ability to kind of chop reports or filter reports in different ways. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show is how to link issues. So one of the key features or key functions that JIRA provides users with is the ability to relate issues together. So let's say there's a dependency between two issues. You have the ability to link those issues up through JIRA. So I'll use a typical, I'll show you what I mean. So we'll just ignore this JIRA Masterclass project because it doesn't contain user stories that will be beneficial to this demonstration. So we'll just ignore that and go into a sample Scrum project. So this one has user stories that we can use. Okay, so you have a user story. So this is SSP 14. And then remember we cloned this user story, and we now have SSP 24. So these are the unique user story identification. Now, because we used the clone function to create the clone or the new issue, automatically they are linked. Because as you can see here, it says linked issues clones SSP 14. So that's a description of the relationship. Let's take a different, let's just take a very random issue that hasn't been linked. So we have issue SSP 10. Now, as it stands, the issue has not been linked to any other issue. So it's still it just has two subtasks. It's not been linked. If we want to link this issue to another issue, let's say SSP 9, so we've got SSP 9 and SSP 10. So let's say we want to link them together. What we need to do is to click on this icon, which is like a chain icon, and it brings up the link option. Now, the first thing to do is to define the relationship between this user story and the user story we want to link it to. So we can use blocks, which means this one blocks the other one. So we need to do this one first before we can do the other one. Or we can use cloned, or is cloned by, clones, is duplicated by, duplicates, or we can use relates to. Now, my personal preference is to use relates to, because you don't necessarily have to define exactly how it relates to the other one. Now, what this will do is it would ensure that anybody that picks up this issue looks at the related issue to understand the relationship. So we'll look for SSP 10, or you can easily type SSP 10. Oh, sorry. SSP 10. Okay, so for some reason it's not recognizing it, so we'll actually search for it. Sorry, so I'm on SSP 10 and I need SSP 9 rather. So that's what we're looking for. So we've used the linked issues to relate SSP10 to SSP9. And you just click on link. And that creates the link between the two. So that's how you link an issue. The other thing that we can do within JIRA is to move an issue. So let's say, for example, you have this particular issue, SSP10, and we want to move this issue from this sample Scrum project to our new JMP project, because it relates to that project as opposed to this one, or it relates to this one and it also relates to that one. So what we can do is we go in here, so the 3 dots to the right, quite a few things can be done with that 3 dots to the right, and we click on move. So once you click on move, it brings up a window, and what you now need to do is, as you can see, it says move from SSP sample Scrum project, where it's a story, to the new location. So for example, you may want to move it to our new project, so JMP, and we want it to still be a story. So once we specify the project we want to move it into, we click on next. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so for, what's this saying? Other fields of target. Oh. Okay. So it's going as a subtask. Let's see. So please cancel and start again. Anyway, for some reason that is not working. There seems to be a clash. So what I will do is I'll look for another one. Okay, so however, that's the button when you want to move a project, when you want to move a user story from one project to another. So we'll try a different example, because for some reason that one is not, because it has subtasks, that's why. So let's try this one that does not have any subtasks. Move. So hopefully this one should work. So moving story, 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 JMP as a story. Yeah. To do new status. Yeah, we can say new status backlog, that's fine. That's fine. And then move. So it's gone. So SMP9 has been moved and it's now JMP7. So that's how to move an issue from one project to another, and it takes the features and the details of the original story. So you move it from one project to another. Okay. The other thing we can do as well is to view the change history. So JIRA has this activity section, which allows you to view the history on that particular story. So, and this is extremely useful, especially when you have different people working on a particular project, because you may have people going in, making changes, and not necessarily making any notes or communicating those changes to the rest of the team. Now, what JIRA enables is anybody can go into this section, this activity section, and view the history, find out what has happened, find out all the changes that have been made to that particular user story, where a developer has gone in to update the story, it records it, where someone else has gone in to delete something, maybe change the estimated time. It's all recorded in there. So that's a very useful tool. And we'll just look at one now. I have to go into a different project. Let's go into our UC project and see. Okay, so we've got a few more functions to demonstrate, and after that we'll be done. So please bear with us for probably 5-10 minutes. Okay, so this is the location of one of our live projects, and I'm just going to use one of our user story examples to demonstrate this concept. Okay, so I think all these stories have been entered. So what I'll do is I'll make a change. So if I go in and add something, I'll just say, please note this. It should pick up that someone made a change, right? Okay, it actually hasn't. So for some reason it hasn't picked that up. Maybe it takes some time to. Yeah, so it should pick up the update. Let me try a different update and maybe change the priority from medium to high and see, and then change the story points to 10. Go out, go back in. Okay, so it has just picked up the comments only for some weird reason. Okay, so I won't dwell on that too much, but you should be able to view the change history, ideally using that function. Maybe it's because I'm the same person. If I was using a different profile, maybe it would have picked it up. Okay, the other thing you can do is to watch a story. So when you're interested in a particular story, you can actually watch that story. And all you need to do is to click on the eye to the right. So if you click on it, you can, so at the moment I'm watching this story, but I can actually stop watching this story or start watching it again. So this is a way to make a note on a story that you are interested in. So yeah, I think those are the main functions that I wanted to cover today. So again, you have the basic search function where you can put in a reference and it finds the user story for you. So TU48, you get it straight from here, as opposed to having to scroll through and do a full-blown search. So yeah, those are the key concepts I wanted to cover within JIRA. And as you can see, there are lots of ways to chop and manage user stories, issues, defects, projects within JIRA. And there are lots of things you can do. So we have pretty much just scratched the surface. So this is the basics you need, especially when you join a new project, or you join an organization where JIRA is being used, or even when JIRA is introduced to your organization. So these are the basic functions you need to be aware of that would help you, stand out really, and demonstrate your knowledge of JIRA. So, any questions? No, I have been talking for a long time. So, question time.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Debbie.
I just wonder, does I should know this, but I can't remember. Does JIRA have like a dashboard, or like a graphic representation, like a graphic summary of a project?
It doesn't on its own. However, there are add-ons that can provide you with a different, pictorial representation, and also you can generate specific reports. So it depends on what you mean by a graphic summary, because you can generate multiple reports within JIRA depending on what exactly you want to view. So these
Like
are some of the...
Sorry, like a highlight report that's just kind of like a one-page summary.
You can view a no, it won't provide you with a highlight report, or a one-page summary, because you need to define what you want to see in that one-page summary. So, for example, if you want to generate a report based on a project to find out the status of different stories within that project, yes, you can do that. But again, you need to define the parameters of the report. Now, there are some default reports within JIRA, like these ones. So you can view, for example, created versus resolved issues, etc. But you also have the ability to customize the sort of report you want to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So for those that are students on the TCA platform, please feel free to go in and play around with the JIRA and kind of put some of the things we've learned into practice. The other thing I will be doing as well is I will be making the recording from today's session available on SharePoint, so we can all go back and review certain aspects that we may be more interested in, or I know it has been a bit of an information overload, so we can actually take time and kind of go through it at a slower pace. But yeah, that's a comprehensive intro into the use of JIRA. Now, that being said, there are lots of other functionalities available within JIRA. So it's not just what I've talked about. There's a lot more that one can do with JIRA, and I'm going to. So, for example, we didn't even touch JIRA for Agile projects, and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation just so I can wrap this up. Okay, so we've gone through the live demo, gone through one or two questions. So we will be having a JIRA Advanced Masterclass at some point. And this is where we will be delving into JIRA specifically for Agile. So how do I set up JIRA for an Agile project? We've talked about how to create stories, but we'll also look at how to configure those stories for Agile delivery. We'll look at how to create backlogs, product backlogs, We'll look at how to prioritize and create sprints. We'll look at sprint planning, and we'll look at other parts of Agile and how JIRA can be used for an Agile project. We'll also look at the advanced search functionality, and would look at creating issues using CSV, because JIRA provides the ability to create issues outside JIRA in a CSV format, and then rather than going in and typing everything one by one, you can upload that file into JIRA, and all the issues are created magically in JIRA. So we'll look at all that as part of the advanced masterclass, which will be happening in the future. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about briefly is JIRA interview questions. Now, we may be in a position where we go for an interview and we get asked JIRA specific questions, and the reason why I capture these questions here is to show how much we've learned, because sometimes we don't really appreciate or value how much we learn till we see an indicator that, oh, I've actually added more knowledge. So for example, you could go for an interview where they ask you to explain what a workflow is and how a workflow is used within JIRA. So it's something we talked about, and it's something I believe we now have enough information to explain during an interview. Another question that you can be asked is, what can be referred as an issue in JIRA? So when we hear issue, or when someone says an issue, what does that actually mean? So we now know it means epic, stories, bugs, test cases, whatever it is. And then you could be asked to explain, the concept of labeling or linking an issue in JIRA. We all know what that is and how to do that. You could also be asked to share how to share an issue with other users. We all know that as well. So these interview questions may not come directly as part of your, the interviewer may not necessarily ask you directly, how do you link an issue? But knowing and understanding how to link an issue enables you to improve the quality of interview questions, or the quality of your interview responses rather. So for example, they can ask you, how do you collaborate with your colleagues? That's where you can talk about, you link an issue, to ensure that anybody that goes into that issue is able to trace that issue to all the related issues. And also you can include become a watcher on an issue. That way, any changes to that particular issue, you will be notified of any changes. So these are ways to kind of utilize what you've learned in either answering interview questions, or actually in your role in having conversations with different stakeholders. And I hope this has been useful. Are there any questions? Because this is my last slide, and if there are no questions, I would like to. Sorry guys, a call just came into my phone. Okay, so if there are no questions, I would like to thank every single person that has made our time to attend this session. And apologies. I'd like to thank every person that has made our time to attend this session, and wish you all a wonderful evening. And please feel free, if you have any questions, to reach out to me directly. And for those on the platform, like I said, this video will be made available on SharePoint, so you can go back and watch it at your convenience. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, and Do have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's been a
Thank
very
you.
useful session. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks,
Thanks a
Steve.
Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Yomi. Thanks, Chinedu.
When is the next session likely to be, please?
That will be communicated definitely on the platform. So stay tuned.
Certainly will.
Okay.
Really good. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Cheers, Debbie. Thank you. You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night.